All right, guys, so we're going to do this making inferences activity together. Making inferences is just like what it means to draw conclusions. So our target skill for reading this week is all about conclusions or making inferences. And what that means is to take what we already know plus what they tell us in the story to come up with an answer that they don't tell us about in the text itself. Okay, so we're going to do one together and then you're going to try one on your own. So this story is called Behind the Doors. You should have this assignment in front of you to follow along with me. The children crept through the house, trying hard to keep their footsteps silent. They made their way to the spare bedroom and looked around. Glimmers of moonlight shone into the room, barely lighting up the old furniture that lay within. They moved towards the ancient wardrobe, unsure what they would find inside, but feeling curiously drawn towards it. Their hands were shaking, and their hearts were racing. Both children took a deep breath in and quickly opened the doors. With a loud screech, the doors swung open, revealing a bright light within. They peered in cautiously and saw a mysterious and strange world hidden in the back of the wardrobe. The trembling children took a hesitant step towards the strange new world, eager to discover what lay within. All right, so we're going to answer these questions, and we're going to answer them using what we already know, plus what they tell us in the text to come up with an answer. So number 1 says, why do you think the children were trying to be quiet? Okay, so we don't exactly know why they were trying to be quiet, but if we look back at the beginning, it says the children crept through the house, trying hard to keep their footsteps silent. Okay, so why do we think that they were trying to stay quiet? What do you think was happening? Take a second to think about that. So do we think that maybe they weren't supposed to be in this room, or they weren't supposed to find this wardrobe, or maybe someone was even chasing them? So they don't tell us that in the story, okay? But after reading that first sentence, we can take a guess that they probably weren't supposed to be in that room. So why do you think the children were trying to be quiet? We're going to say the children, so write this with me, were being quiet. Whoops. We're going to say so they wouldn't get caught. Because it sounds like maybe they weren't supposed to be in that room with the wardrobe in the first place. So the children were being quiet so they wouldn't get caught. Let me zoom in just a little bit so you guys can read this better. There we go. Okay, so we don't know that answer for sure, but like we said, we can make an inference or draw a conclusion as to why that would be the answer. All right, let's look at number 2. It says, how did you make this inference? Well, we just talked about that. Okay, so we think that the children weren't supposed to be in that room. Okay, and you guys know from your own experience, if you're trying to keep a secret or not get caught, obviously you want to stay quiet. You don't want to make a lot of noise or you'll get caught. Okay, so that's a piece of information we already knew, that when you're trying to stay quiet, that means that you're not wanting to get caught doing something. Okay, now let's see. The next question says, do you think the story took place during the day or night? Okay, let's look back in what we read. Well, they don't specifically tell us this story took place in the day or night, but let's look at this sentence here. It says, glimmers of moonlight shone into the room, barely lighting up the old furniture that lay within. What does that clue tell us? Like we said, it doesn't say this story happened at night. Okay, but we know, when does the moon come out and shine the brightest? Nighttime. The moon's still out during the day, but it's not bright. So we think the story took place at night. And then it says, how did you make this inference? And we're going to say, we know. So this is something we just already know. We know that the moon only shines bright at night. That was our clue. They said moonlight in the story. We know that the moon only shines bright at night. Okay, so that was an inference that we made. We don't know for sure that it was nighttime, but we can take a guess based off of the clues that they give us. Okay, so question 3 says, how do you think the children felt before opening the doors? Okay, let's look back at what we read. Let's see. Let's come back to this sentence. It says, they moved towards the ancient wardrobe, unsure of what they would find inside, but feeling curiously drawn towards it. Their hands were shaking, and their hearts were racing. Okay, so what do you typically feel? If you feel like your hands are shaking, your heart's beating really fast, what emotion does that typically mean you're feeling? They don't tell us in the story, oh, they were feeling this way, they were feeling happy, they were feeling sad. They don't tell us that, but they're giving us clues so that we can put that together for ourselves. Okay, and that's where you know that when you have shaky hands or your heart's beating really fast, what emotion are you feeling? I would say nervous. Okay, so we think that the children are feeling nervous. Now notice that I'm not just writing one-word answers for these questions. So when you work on one on your own, the sentences need to be just as long as these. So we think that the children are feeling nervous. And how did we figure that out? So how did you make this inference? Okay, well, we know they told us in the story that they had shaky hands and their hearts were racing. And we also know, so we know that shaking hands and, what does it say, a racing heart means that someone is nervous. Once again, that's not something they just straight up tell us in the story. Okay, but we're making inferences or drawing conclusions about how the children feel. Okay, so make sure you have these written down just like me. Very good job, guys. So this one we did together. Okay, so now you're going to be doing one on your own, but I am going to read it for you first. Okay, so make sure this time the teacher has passed out, so you should already have this one. Now you need this paper. At the top it should say, just be yourself. So it's a different story, but the idea is the same. We have questions. We're going to use our inferences to help us answer them. Okay, so I'm going to read it, and then you guys are going to answer the questions. Okay, so this is called Just Be Yourself. So if you don't have this paper yet, make sure to pause the video and get it. Okay, and then, okay, we're going to read it together. So it says, just be yourself. Jenny was about to start her first day at a new school. She jumped out of bed early and proudly put on her new school uniform. Jenny couldn't wait to board the school bus and start making friends. When she got on the bus, she started showing everyone her cool magic tricks. But all the students moved away from her and sat at the front of the bus. When she got to school, she tried making lots of jokes in class to get the other students to like her. But the other kids just gave her strange looks or ignored her. So at lunchtime, she decided just to be herself. She asked the other kids about their weekend and their hobbies. Suddenly, a large group had formed around her. Everyone was interested in getting to know the new girl, and that's how Jenny finally made friends at her new school. So I'll read the questions, but you guys are going to answer them. So I'll read them and then pause and you can answer. So question one says, how is Jenny feeling about her first day of school? Then you're going to tell me, how did you make this inference? Number 2, did the students like Jenny's magic tricks and her jokes? Then tell me, how did you make this inference? And then number 3, why did the other students like Jenny at the end? And how did you make that inference? Okay, so none of these answers are going to be directly in what you read. That's why you have to make inferences or draw conclusions using what you already know and what they tell you in the story to put together an answer. All right, so you guys are doing this one on your own. Make sure you turn it in when you're done with your name on it. Okay, and good job for working hard, friends. Great job.